Hello everyone, I am Shivam Banka and I will be going through this management case study interview. The purpose of this video is to give you an understanding of what is expected of you in a management case study interview. That reason this video is divided into two parts. In the first part, I'll be going through the interview and present line by line understanding of it as we go along. In the second part, I'll be analyzing the video as a whole and provide an overall structure to it. For context, all the black text with blue background, which you see is the statement of the interviewer, and all the blue text with white background, which you see is the statement of the candidate. Today, we are doing an interview where a client is an airline company and it's titled as SpiceJet versus Indigo, which are two of the most popular airlines in India. And let's begin. Your client is SpiceJet, which has recently seen a decline in profitability compared to Indigo. Analyze the problem and provide solutions. So the first statement provided in a management case study interview is one of the most important statement because it tells you the scope of the interview and you should try really hard not to go out of the scope. So what we have here is, our client is SpiceJet and they have seen decline in profitability compared to Indigo. So it's not that they have negative profitability, but it's just that they are their profit is declining compared to Indigo, which is another airline. You have to analyze the problem and provide solutions to it. So this is a typical profitability management case study interview. And a profitability interview is divided into three parts. In the first part, you understand more of the client's business, the competition, and the industry as a whole. In the second part, you try to analyze the situation and structure it to figure out where exactly is the problem coming from. And in the third part, you provide recommendations and solutions. So we are in the first part right now where we are trying to understand more of the client's business, its competitions, and what is the industry. I would like to ask a few clarifying questions before I begin to analyze the case. Firstly, I would like to confirm that we are focusing on SpiceJet airline business and domestic travel at that since we are comparing with Indigo. So we are just the candidates are asking to focus that asking clarifying questions whether they are focusing exactly on SpiceJet airline business or its domestic travel. Yeah, that's correct. All right. I would like to then understand the recent industry trends over the last 5 years. Is the decline in profitability specific to SpiceJet or is it an industry-wide phenomenon? SpiceJet specifically has been facing the issue of the decline in profitability. I think it's a good thing the candidate asked this question, but it could have been also framed better because it was told that the decline in SpiceJet is more as compared to Indigo. So the issue might not, the first statement of the interview gives you a hint that the issue might not be an industry wide. So it could also be faced in this way that since SpiceJet has seen a greater decline in profitability as compared to Indigo, that mean that it's not an industry wide problem and just a SpiceJet company specific problem? That could have been a better framework for asking this specific question. Since this is an airline industry, has the decline been has the decline been on specific routes across the nation? Is there a specific reason we are comparing our profitability to Indigo since our scale and target population of sales scale and target population of premium customers, if I assume that is different? No specific reason. Indigo is doing well in the domestic market. They are not seeing the same decline that's Bicep is. All right then. Since this is a profit problem, I would like to begin by splitting it into revenue and cost. And we are observing rising cost. Are we observing rising cost or declining revenue? So now we are moving to the second part of the interview where we are trying to structure the situation. And most of the times, the profitability question, the profits are divided into revenue and cost, and then you proceed further figuring out where the problem is coming from. So that is what the candidate is doing. The He has divided profits into revenue and cost and asking the interview which side to focus on. Both. Let's start. Okay, problem is on both sides. Let's see. Let's start with revenue and move over to costs. Okay, revenue of SpiceJet airline business can be written as price into occupancy into capacity. Uh, have you observed a change in any of these components or across all? So, very important point. This is also a very good formula which can be used in industries such as airline and hotel industry. Uh, so we can see that the revenue will be a product of what is the price, average price of the ticket offered, what is the occupancy, and what is the so capacity is total number of seats the SpiceJet has, and what is the occupancy rate. So if it has 100 seats per flight on average, and on average 80 seats are full, so occupancy rate will be 0.8, and that is how you calculate the revenue of an airline industry. If you're not considering other services and just focusing on the core businesses. Price has remained the same, occupancy has declined, and capacity has increased. Okay, so they might have bought more planes, and then occupancy, they're not able to target more people. That is what you get from this statement. Again, have these changes occurred across the country or only on some specific routes? SpiceJet recently started its business across some niche routes. Occupancy in some routes have been suffering. That makes sense. Just to clarify, since this is a new business for SpiceJet, I would like to understand what kind of investments have been made. Has SpiceJet purchased a new fleet, or has it simply rerouted its existing fleet? New fleet has been purchased. Since it's an occupancy issue, low demand for SpiceJet, I would like to understand the customer profile in these niche routes. Do these routes have low airline travel demand, or is it the occupancy issue specific to SpiceJet? And is the demand likely to grow in the future? Currently, these routes have low travel demands, but likely to grow in the future. These, these, and therefore the investment, the demand for premium SpiceJet travel has also been projected to rise. That's very helpful. Since we have already made substantial investment, we may not want to withdraw fleets from these niche routes entirely for now. A few short-term measures which we can undertake are as follows. We can expedite our marketing activities in these regions. We can analyze price sensitivity of the customer pool and accordingly price. For now, we need to keep in mind that this is a price sensitive industry with very few pricing power. Instead of having flights catering to these niche routes specifically, we can have our new flight on the conventional routes for and have rerouting via these routes. That makes sense. Let us now move to the cost side. So I think the interview is going not exactly as I told in the starting, that we first understand the situation, then structure the situation to figure out where the problem is coming from, and then provide solutions. Since there are two problems in this interview, which is both on the revenue side and cost side, the candidate has first understand the problem on the revenue side and provide solutions for it. Now we are moving to understanding problem on the cost side and then provide solution for it. That makes sense. Let us now come to the cost aspect of the problem. For the cost aspect of the problem, I would like to draw the cost value chain of SpiceJet, which consists of the following: cost of material, that is expenditure on fleet, uh, processing cost, which would include airport rent, employee salary, IT services and IT services and fuel cost, storage cost, which is maintaining inventories for the spare parts, distribution and marketing, and consumer services. Which of this part of the value chain would you say is suffering? So the candidate has done pretty good job dividing the whole value chain into different components and provide subsections of those components, and then ask the interviewer to focus on. So, SpiceJet is experiencing high storage costs, which have recently risen further. Is Indigo also facing similar costs, or is it just SpiceJet, only SpiceJet? Inventory cost can be split into types of inventory held, number of inventory parts, and cost of carry, which would include uh, pilferage, warehouse rent, poor demand prediction, uh, poor inventory management, and late supply costs. Is the cost higher than Indigo across all these components? The cost is higher specifically due to types of inventory held. SpiceJet operates with different kinds of fleet, whereas Indigo has one standardized fleet. Due to these, SpiceJet needs to hold more inventory. What implications would this have? Due to different kinds of planes, there is a greater number of spare parts that SpiceJet is having to hold, which is the reason behind the higher cost. The costs have risen now more than before, could probably be driven by the new fleet purchased by the SpiceJet for the niche routes. If the new fleet is of different type, then cost of inventory due to the new purchase has increased overall cost and led to the fall in profitability. This no, that is correct. The new fleet purchased by SpiceJet is smaller and requires an inventory of different parts. What would your recommendations be? Okay, so it's the last part of the interview, which is the recommendations for the second problem, which are okay. So there are few things that SpiceJet could do. Why do vis-a-vis the inventory cost? Standardize the fleet going forward. Make sure the new purchase in the future are standardized. Renting agreements with suppliers of inventory. Alternative to purchasing expensive inventory. Hub and spoke model have a centralized location where inventory is stored and supplied to all the airports instead of maintaining inventory at every airport. Need basis, order inventory on the need basis instead of maintaining access. So all the four recommendations are provided on lines of how we can reduce our inventory cost at airlines by using different methodologies. And it was pretty good list, which in which the candidate not just provided one solution but also multiple solutions in way the airline can reduce its inventory management cost. So now we'll move to the second part of the interview where we will analyze the interview as a whole. So maintaining a very clear and crisp notes are very important because sometimes at the end of the interviewer might ask for your notes and he should be able to understand everything in one glance. Interview notes. Revenue have fallen and costs have risen. As substantial investment have been made, withdrawing altogether from niche routes is not ideal as demand is slated to grow in the future. New fleets purchased are of different type, leading to higher inventory cost. Case facts: SpiceJet Airways facing declining profitability, not an industry-wide trend. Focus on airline business, domestic travel occupancy has declined and capacity has increased. Problem across niche routes. A new fleet purchase for niche routes faces higher storage costs. So this flowchart of dividing the whole profit problem into components are very important in your rough sheets because this is something which the interview usually checks. So the profit is divided into revenue and cost. The problem was on both sides. So first we went for revenue side. The revenue is a product of product, occupancy, and capacity. In occupancy, you divided the problem into customer segmentation. On the cost side, the entire value chain was divided into procurement, inbound logistic, operations, outbound logistics, sales and marketing, and customer care. The problem was on the procurement side as the inventory was taking a lot of cost at different airports because the jet airline company maintains a different set of flight fleets. So what are the recommendations provided by the candidate was the revenue to improve the revenue. There has to be rerouting of some of the planes to very conventional ways so that the occupancy can be increased. Bundling, ex expeding marketing, reanalyzing customer segments. So all those things to figure out how we can increase the occupancy rate of currently launched fleet on the new niche routes. On the cost side, the candidate suggested that that the SpiceJet going forward in future should use a standardized fleet, should have a hub and spoke model, should have renting agreements rather than buying, and should follow need-based inventory procurement rather than storing it unnecessarily. So, what are some observation suggestions for the interview? Is revenue should also be appropriately split into its components given the airline travel industry. Okay. Um, Do not directly suggest to undo an action the client has taken unless there is a sufficient evidence to suggest the same. So the airline has launched a new fleet in niche routes. So when you're providing suggestions and recommendations to improve the current problem, you cannot directly suggest that the airline should stop operating on niche routes for now, because it's not getting as much occupancy as the conventional routes. You really have to think in the shoes of the client, whether the recommendations you're providing, will that be will the client be open to implementing that, and you cannot directly negate what the client has already done. So it's a good thing um, the candidate didn't say to stop the operation of those flights on niche route directly, but also in some way he mentioned to reroute it to conventional routes and reanalyzing the customer segment. While devising strategies to improve occupancy, look at it from a 4P perspective, which is a pretty standard framework. Candidate needs to develop an in-depth understanding of the airline industry to split costs into components. Understanding which is how do you go from procurement to the customer care entire components without missing out any. Understanding of generic methods to cut inventory costs is essential. This can then be tweaked as per the airline industry. So you need to have a generic understanding how do you cut inventory costs, and then you figure out for the airline industry. So this was a pretty well done case by the candidate, as he was able to figure out both the problems. And I hope you guys learned a lot from it. If you have a case study interview coming up, all the best. And if you're looking to build a career in consulting and want to understand more of different industries, watching the one video every day of these different industries is a very good practice, because it not just tells you about different industry, but also tells you how interview or a conversation with a client would go if you are in a meeting with one. So do subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of these videos, and hope you have a nice day. Thank you for watching.